Brown. You're the only person I listen to about Colts. You just got done. You were in the locker room. It's Colts, Jags, both teams, I'll say it, on fire. It's a game of the weekend, baby. Where's Romo? What do you think?
3-2 versus 3-2. This is where
2-0 in their
championships.
4-0 in their last 4.
Yeah.
2-0, 2-0.
You know what? Yeah. I don't know. I think it's going to be really tough for the Colts to win this game. Honestly, I do. I want them to win. I hope that they win. I know that this time around you got Zach Moss, you got Jonathan Taylor, you had Deion Jackson last time. You didn't have professional running back play, but now you've got Gardner Minshew and not Anthony Richardson. So I don't know. What do you?
This is the thing I really wanted to talk to you and Colts fans about. I'm reading a lot of people. Jason Brown is that coach from Last Chance U, and he's on Twitter. And I tell you this, the things he says about football kind of come true.
Yeah.
Or in about football. And he put out something, make no mistake, Colts have a better chance to win now, right now, tomorrow, Sunday, whenever, with Gardner Minshew at quarterback than with Anthony Richardson. You're saying nay.
I say no.
No?
I say no because Minshew's too easy to scheme against. You're going to put 8 in the box. You're going to say, okay, we're taking away the running game. Gardner Minshew, you try to beat us. That's what you're doing. With Anthony Richardson, you can't put 8 in the box. You got to spread the field because Anthony Richardson is capable of throwing a really good and accurate deep ball. And that makes them so multiple that you got to play honest defensively. And that's part of what's happened for Zach Moss. That's part of the reason that he's getting all these yards and that he's number 3 in the NFL in rushing. And that comes to an end on Sunday because you, me, anybody running that Jaguars defense is going to say, okay, we're going to stuff the box and we're going to see if Pittman and Pierce and Downs can beat us. I don't think they can.
Yeah, that's interesting because usually that would mean that well, let me see if I can, in my mind, register what you're saying. You're not saying that Minshew can't throw the ball. Basically, you're saying that the combination of Minshew throwing the ball with whatever skill he does or doesn't have, with a mediocre wide receiver group, lends itself to, hey, look, okay, guys, go beat us. But you ain't getting 173 yards out of a running back. You're not getting 200 yards between 2 running backs. You see what I'm saying?
Absolutely right.
It's not just I think you're not just saying Minshew can't throw it. You're saying the combination of the passing game.
Right.
Yes.
If you had a guy like Deebo Samuel, all right, and you could throw a short ball and have him run all the way home, you got a chance.
Yeah.
But you don't have any of those guys on this team. So Minshew, given that he doesn't have the big arm, you can pull everybody nice and tight and you make it really hard for the Colts to move the ball. And so I think that if the Colts win, it's going to be like 22-19. You're going to have to hold the Jags under 20.
I think what we're hoping, and I want to talk to you about this because I thought he looked pretty good. We're hoping Josh Downs becomes the guy. We're also hoping, and this will be interesting for me, I really like what... Before we get into that, I want to go back to the Richardson and Minshew debate.
Yeah.
Here's one thing I think people are missing, like Coach Brown, who I have a lot of respect for. One of the things that has happened early in the season is around the goal line where a lot of teams have trouble, or maybe they only got one guy. I'm going to Travis Kelce. Man, Richardson opened up things on that goal line immensely. The 2-point conversion a couple games ago, the touchdown that led into the clever because you had to respect this. You had to respect running right and throwing the football. And it'd be interesting to see how efficient they are, particularly Minshew throwing or whatever, running in the red zone.
That's exactly right. And you saw that, like you mentioned, and you saw it in the inverse. You saw it in Baltimore, where Minshew couldn't get you home in the red zone, and he had Ryan and Matt Gay to hit you 5 field goals, 4 of them outside of 50. Yeah. Between the 20s, Minshew can operate and he can move the football. Inside the 20 in that red zone, it gets difficult.
Yeah, there's just so many more options with Richardson down there.
Yeah.
And let's be honest.
And you got to take him away.
Yeah.
If you're the defense, you're thinking, holy hell, we got to and we're going to chase him around for 5 seconds and he's going to find somebody like he found Moss on that little dump off for a touchdown.
Yeah, all you got to do is go twice in the red zone where you're in a real advantage. So let's say inside let's say inside the 12, where you can get a first down at the 2, or inside the 7,
Right.
and not score or have to kick field goals just twice, and that's an 11-point swing.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sorry, it's an 8-point swing, and that's another possession. And that's where I think Richardson. I think so much of the conversation is the easy conversation with Richardson. How accurate is he? He runs the ball. He's going to get hurt. Okay, fine. But the real conversation, or his real strength, has been he has 4 touchdowns rushing the football. I mean, son of a bitch, that's pretty good.
Yeah.
I mean, that's, and now you got a guy who is also, running for 170, and now you got an explosive guy in Taylor, and you've got a setup here. But you don't have that with Richardson. I think that's going to be big in this game.
And you got the tough guy football, right? Where hey,
whoa! I can't really bend my knee, so I was trying to bring it up here. Anyway,
tough guy football against the Titans, but the Titans couldn't take everything away.
Right.
And so you were able to operate running the football. That last drive, you're not going to be able to do that anymore. You can't do that with Minshew. You can't run set. Well, they did.
They did.
It was with Minshew.
They did it with Minshew.
But you can't do it after a week where they're preparing.
We're going to see, because you're going to try to do that. Because if you're going to have a drive when you're down 10, that's going to, it's not going to be we're throwing it deep. We're going to do that kind of drive, even if it takes a little clock. And I'm saying, obviously down 7 or 3, you're doing whatever you need to. But if you're down 10 and people think we need a quick score, it's still going to be that kind of drive.
Right.
It is, because that's the kind of drive that's going to be the most efficient.
And that's the difference too.
Right.
Is that with Richardson, you had a chance to come back from the dead, which they did. I mean, what were they, down 20-3 at one point, or whatever they were down? They had a chance to come back. With Minshew, it's gobbling up yards and gobbling up the clock. And God bless the guy. He looks like a guy who should be much more concerned with branding than he is. He is completely unconcerned. Like yesterday, the question was, all right, what's different when you're starting from when you're not? And he goes, man, I have so many more requests. I have so much other stuff to do. I just like ball. And all these distractions, and he was talking about us. He doesn't like that.
Well,
I like that about it.
I guarantee you he's also talking about outside people. I guarantee he's talking, not necessarily only media. You're talking about a lot more when you're a starting quarterback. It's like I have a niece, Emily. She went down to the IU game. She's a volleyball analyst for IU for Big Ten. She's the number 1 analyst for Big Ten volleyball, Emily Eamon. So she goes down. That's her home, Bloomington. She grew up there. And IU produced playing a massive volleyball game. Oh, did you?
She's great.
She is. Yeah, she's terrific. Well, she was complaining about all the tickets and all the stuff. And my sister goes, hey, call your Uncle Dan. That was his life from the time he was 18 freaking years old. So it's not only the media it's all of it. It's, hey, I want to come see you, Gardner. You were my 6th grade. Now you're starting for the Colts. Colts have always been my team. That kind of.
And especially down there where he played a couple of years. I'm sure he's got friends.
Oh, he's got a ton.
Yeah.
How good? Like I will give again. I'll give Ballard credit where it's due. Him picking up Minshew. Now, we're going to see if it was a great move, because I would argue a great move was picking up Hasselbeck when Luck went down. Hasselbeck went like 12-6 in his career, stupid, right? And he was an all-pro, and he wanted to play behind Luck. We'll see if it's a great move, but I got to tell you, it's a far more comfortable move than the crap we were dealing with last year when they really kind of refused.
We would not want, nothing against Sam Ellinger, but we would not want him to be in the game. A 3-2 sort of must-win early season game. No.
Nobody wants that.
No. And we don't want Kellen Mond to play ever. God bless him. Nice guy.
High draft choice.
3rd rounder.
Shit. I mean, he was going to be, Minnesota?
Yeah.
Kirk Cousins was out.
Yeah.
Kellen Mond was going to be the guy.
Yeah.
And he's not the guy, and now he's I guess he's not on the practice squad.
He is.
Well, aren't you
but
the
he'll
third
be
team?
The emergency
Yeah, that's
guy.
what I was going to say.
They'll ramp him up on Sunday.
Yeah, you get to be the 3rd string in case guy, so they don't have to go with a running back. All right, so let me ask you this. We only talk about quarterback controversies. Do we have a running back controversy here in Indianapolis?
I think they coexist very nicely. We may have a running back controversy if Zach Moss, instead of getting 25 carries, is getting 10, and he's in a contract year, which he is, I don't think he's going to be really happy. Jonathan Taylor,
saying.
he got his bag already,
That's
so
what
I
I'm
think he's
saying.
cool with it.
He wouldn't have signed if he wasn't cool with it.
Yeah, right.
So here's what I'm looking at. If all of a sudden you go from, hey, we're going to split this up, do all the politically or media correct stuff, and the running game starts to go to hell.
Yeah,
Because running backs will tell you they get in grooves like everybody else.
what would you have done? Like Taylor, really good timing, signing that extension when he did. Because on Sunday, all of a sudden, you started to think, wait a minute, everybody who is saying that running backs are completely interchangeable, they were right, and we don't need to drop $14 million on this kid each year over the next 3.
You know, life is all about timing, brother.
It is.
If he
Some
decides,
people got
hey,
it.
I'll sign that Monday morning.
Yeah. Hello?
Really?
Hello?
How come Jimmy's not answering my phone? Hey, agent. Well, I can't hear back from the Colts. I don't hear back from the Colts. I don't. And that's the thing. Because I mean, just okay. Let's go there. Week 1, I remember you, me, everybody was like, "Oh man, Taylor's got him by the short hairs right now."
Yeah.
Right. He ain't got him by the short hairs, and it's going to be fascinating to me. I think I'm watching that. Look, you've established that you can have a running game.
Yeah.
With or without Jonathan Taylor.
Yeah.
Here's the thing in coaching. Can you establish as a coach that you can use both of them?
Yeah.
And even use both of them at the same time?
You gotta solve a new problem.
Yes.
You've solved the old problem.
Yes.
It's there.
The old
But
problem was
now
no Taylor.
We have to solve the new one and hope that solution is as good as this one, or you got problems.
I know. Would you play one of the two? Probably Taylor.
Oh, more?
No. Would you play Taylor as a slot back? Would you put him in? Would you sprint him out wide? Because he's done that. He's done that as a wide receiver.
You can.
As a player.
I think it'd be kind of interesting to throw them both back there at the same time and
too.
go kind of, I formation. We haven't seen an I formation in the NFL since like Matt Suey and Walter Payton.
Okay, one guy's in a contract year. The other guy's never done it. Who's blocking?
Yeah.
Who's Matt Suey? Who's Roland Harper? Hey,
Zach,
man.
sorry.
Hey man, I'm gonna tell you something. I didn't sign this contract to block for your ass.
Jonathan Taylor is the guy I would play this week. Right. Jonathan Taylor is the guy I'd pair with Minshew because you've got to have a dynamic athlete on the field someplace. And Zach Moss, God bless him, he's not. He's not, although he did. He took it 56 yards to the house.
And nobody caught him.
No, they didn't.
They
Wasn't
didn't
that
catch
odd?
him.
I think that's more an indictment of the Titans. That's like, okay, I don't have to be the fastest guy.
Yeah.
I just got to be faster than that guy.
Right. Oh yeah. That's the old. That's the old. Can you beat a bear? No, I don't have to beat the bear. I got to beat Ken. Unless you're going to eat both of us.
Man,
but
I saw it, not to go haywire, but I saw a video of a bear on like the side of a river chasing a boat. Those things can fly. Holy crap!
They're the perfect specimen. I mean, they can climb. They can fly.
How would that be for no good? You're up in a tree, you think, oh, safe. Whoa!
No.
Here he comes! Jesus!
No.
I want no part of a bear ever. I never want to see one, even in a zoo. I don't want to see bears. Anyway.
There are Seth Greenberg in his neighborhood. He'll drive home and sitting on, you got a brick entrance way to your neighborhood. There'll be a bear sitting right there. And then everybody alerts everybody else, get the pets inside.
Oh, geez.
They've sent me videos.
I'd throw the pets outside. We've got to feed this thing so it'll go away.
Well, then they come back and the pets are dead and eaten, and now who are they getting?
Yeah, that's not
Or
good.
buy more pets.
I never think these things through.
No. I want no part of any type of wildlife. I feel like, no. All right, I'm going to get to the Jags. Here's what I said a couple weeks ago, and I believe this. 3 weeks ago, I'm watching Trevor Lawrence, and I swear to God, I thought he was hurt. I thought he ran like an old man. I'm betting he was. Something hurt. Something was wrong. He threw the ball with a hump on it, and I'm like, all right, whatever's wrong with him looks like it's permanent. And then I watched him beat the hell out of somebody, and then I watched him against the Bills, and oh boy, he
a little bit better.
He wasn't even the same guy. Like, was not physically even the same guy from an athletic run. Remember, this is a guy, speaking about running people, Kent, this is a guy that in a college football playoff outran the secondary of Ohio State for 60, 70 yards.
Yeah.
Now, I don't give a damn. That's track team.
Yep.
And he looked slow. He don't look slow now. I think, and they're a fast team. Etienne, I said at the time, was a really good draft pick the way the NFL was going by getting a Debo Samuels type of a playmaker. Ridley is terrific. Zay Jones has been really good. This is a better team.
He missed practice,
Oh,
so
is that
that's
right?
a good thing.
Oh,
yeah, we like
yeah.
it when people are hurt.
Only get the good players hurt.
Yeah, that's
don't need the
we
bad
don't need
players.
no the scrubs. What
I used to tell walk-ons, you the guys that are supposed to get the grades and get hurt.
Yeah, Ridley, Christian Kirk, Etienne, who's the Hayden Hurst, right?
Yeah.
Isn't it? The I think
They've
tight
retooled
end.
that pretty good. They've
Yeah.
retooled that.
Yeah.
They were smart. They got some speed in there, and they got some weapons. And I swear to you, if don't bother doing this, just take my word for it, I guess. But if you went back a couple weeks and you watched, I'm not talking about this past week or the week before. I'm talking about 3 games ago.
Yeah.
He looked horseshit. I'm telling you, he did not. In fact, I almost was feeling bad for him talking about Trevor Lawrence. And then, man, he was slinging it. And I'll tell you something else that's interesting. I've never felt like that the Jaguars have ever been a tough team.
Right.
And I mean that as much physically or mentally. Like, always felt like they were going to collapse. They didn't collapse against the Bills. They didn't. I watched most of that. They played their nuts off.
And they haven't collapsed against the Colts
No.
in Jacksonville since Reggie Wayne was a wide receiver here. Yikes. But that's what, hopefully this team, the Colts, starting to assert their toughness.
Hopefully.
You know, they beating the Titans, I think, was a good thing because I think they out-toughed them. I think Zaire Franklin being a leader on this team is important because I think he's a tough guy. And I think that offensive line is playing really, really well. You know, I think if Minshew, if they can stay away from mistakes and if they can put pressure on Lawrence, they got a shot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would say that about most teams.
It's a truism
in the
of football.
NFL,
You can
in the
say it.
NFL.
You can say it about.
Yeah.
I mean, that's one of those things that these guys, the national guys, say about every game.
Yeah.
If they get pressure on, insert quarterback's name here.
Yeah, and don't turn over. You got to win the turnover battle. If you win the turnover
Yeah,
battle, you're
yeah,
more than
yeah.
likely to win 70. Now, college is a little different. Like Ohio State can go play Indiana. They can turn the ball over 3 times and only win 40-10, and people will be like, hey, what the hell? But the NFL, it is that. I mean, it truly.
And it was in week 1. The Colts have turned it over 4 times this year, 3 times in that game against the Jags.
Is that right?
The other 4, they got 1. They're taking really good care of the football. Or they're getting very, very lucky.
Well, that's number 1 with Minshew. And that's if you're going to throw the ball to the other team, then your value is 0.
You're dead.
You're dead.
Yeah.
You have no value.
Yeah.
And I think the running backs, I think what's interesting about the running backs is I don't think, I could be wrong, but I don't think Moss has fumbled.
No.
And up until last year.
Jackson lost 2 in that
And that's
first
why
game,
Jackson
and
is
that's really,
no longer here.
unemployed. Yeah. He's,
But Taylor's never been a fumbler. Except last year, I think he had a couple early.
right.
I mean, when you go through
kind
his
of a, like
he
people
was
were
a fumbler.
critical
Yes.
of him. But he kind of put that to bed for a little bit, and then it popped up again.
Yes, that's exactly right. Look, all right, let's go bigger picture. You and I said last week, boy, this sets him up pretty nice. Gets in position to be in position. Well, now, tiebreakers aren't that intricate when it comes down to one team beating the other 2 games to zip.
Right.
That's your tiebreaker.
That's it.
That's it. And if the Colts lose this game, there's your tiebreaker.
Right.
They're 2 games.
So you're down 2.
They're down 2. And that's it. That's why the last game became huge, because you're at least going to split with the Titans in your division. This game becomes monstrous because I feel like this, Kent. I feel like the Colts don't have enough talent to just go whomp people.
Oh, for sure.
Like go on a 10-game winning streak where we're beating everybody 30-10, and then, wow, look how dominant. So this is going to be the way the season goes, and when you're playing well, which the Colts are, you got to take advantage of next week.
You got to grind it out and grind it out and grind it out, and that's what this team's got to be. They've got to be the better team where it comes to that grind in the 4th quarter. And in the opening weekend, Colts took a lead into the 4th against the Jaguars, and then they gacked it up.
14.
They got a good break in that first game where Zaire punched that ball out because that dumbass just kind of stared at it. What was he doing? And Buckner took it to the house. So you really, Like, this is a tough part of this game, and this is why I think the Jaguars are going to win. It's really hard to beat a team twice. And the Colts beat the Jaguars that first time around. They just kind of gave it away in the fourth. But they got everything done that they needed to get done in order to win that game. Still, they turned it over 3 times. I think it's really, really hard to beat a team twice. Like, if they had Zach
you just
Moss,
said that's why the Jaguars. You saying the Colts beat them, but didn't win the game.
Right. If they had Zach Moss, they win. They did enough stuff well other than running the football. And other than those 2 turnovers that Deion Jackson hung on the Colts, they did enough to win. I think that's tough to do twice.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Am I thinking too hard about it? Is that complicating winning?
It's not complicating winning, it's complicating the show. Now I got to do some thinking about that. You know, all right, let me talk about that, though. In that first game, we had talked about the Colts led the NFL in fourth quarter point differential to the negative 63. Right. So that first game, they gave up 14 points in the fourth quarter. They were on a track to do it again, right? They were on a track to be bad again. They kind of turned that around.
Yeah.
So I look at that first game, and I believe in my mind there is a shift from, okay, this is who we were last year. I think the last 2 games have shifted from who we were last year, giving up 63, opening game giving up 14. I think the last 2 games got the Colts over a hurdle, and that hurdle is, okay, we're not a fourth quarter falling apart team. Because they haven't been. And let's just take the last 2 games. They haven't done that.
No.
They've been very good.
That offensive line dictated policy at the end of that game last week, and they got to continue doing that.
That's what I'm saying. So I do think, I think a lot of times there is hangover from the previous year, both good and bad. But I think whatever that hangover was, particularly to the negative from last year, which is only what it could be when you lose 7 in a row to end the season, I think that hurdle has been leaped. I do. And if the Colts lose, look, last undefeated team is 72, so you're not going to win every freaking game from here on out. You're going to lose games. But I don't think they're going to lose from the hangover of being fourth quarter dogs. I don't.
I don't either. And then if you do win this game, you got the Browns, you got the Saints, you got the Patriots, who suck. You got the Panthers,
who suck.
Like, you can carve out a pathway to doing some real damage in the AFC South if you can win this game.
Well,
this is 60 minutes that they got to play great. They get the win.
But if you lose the game, you still got those teams.
Yeah, but you're down in the tiebreaker. Yeah. You're a game back of the Jags, who are going to play most of those teams too.
You know, one of the things, talking about the New England Patriots, I saw this the other day, and I totally believe Robert Kraft will fire Belichick if this continues.
Yeah.
I totally believe it. Or do whatever you got to do. Get him out of there some way.
Do you think he could have a conversation with Belichick where at the end of the conversation he agrees to retire rather than forcing you to pull the trigger and pop him?
I got to know the finances.
Yeah, that's key.
I got to know the financials. I got to know what the financials are for Belichick.
It's going to be the 3rd week in a row we've referenced Ed Orgeron.
Yeah, right. I got to know if Belichick gets fired, what's he paid? If Belichick quits, what's he paid? I would assume, just my assumption, that Kraft and Belichick, being adults, being veterans of this, would come to some certain an agreement on how to go about the business of eradicating Belichick from the premises. But a lot of people think, well, Kraft will never do it. Well, then you're not paying attention. Because Kraft ain't fucking around. Kraft has said, I'm open, or at least sources have said after last week, he's open to it. And I got to tell you, if I'm Kraft, and I saw what Brady did after leaving Belichick, going to the Super Bowl, going twice, winning a Super Bowl, and I'm looking at this slop that Belichick is putting out there, outscored 72-3. Trust is a major thing.
Yeah, and Robert Kraft didn't get to where he got in business by being a softie, by being but we like Bill. Maybe that's how the McCaskies got to where the McCaskies are. But that's not where Bob Kraft got to be where Bob Kraft is.
No, that's where Jimmy Irsay, who put the Colts where they are, because Chuck Strong, Chuck Stay, everybody in that building knew that Arians should have been the coach.
Yeah.
Everybody knew it. Like you talk to there's so many of those guys that are still around here that tell me shit, and it's like everybody knew. But what was Grigson going to do? What was Irsay going to do? Chuck Strong, Chuck Stay, Channel 59 News, Chuck Stay. We're hosting a Chuck Stay program.
Cancer victim Chuck Pagano fired today by the ruthless Indianapolis Colts.
Yeah, well, you know what?
And then you put Arians in a position where, holy crap.
What's he going to do?
Like, he better damn well win.
Yeah.
Or you're the loser who replaced the cancer guy.
Yeah. But I'm just telling you, kindness is weakness, and guys like Robert Kraft don't have kindness.
That brings up a really interesting point. There was a question asked of Shane Steichen. Of Jim Bob Cooter, the offensive coordinator. At halftime, did you try to lift Anthony Richardson's spirits of the game on Sunday? And Cooter was very polite and said, well, no. I did walk by him and kind of patted him on the back as I passed. He didn't really know how to answer it, because what you do is you move on. Like, you can't ignore 52 guys because you're taking care of one. Are you out of your mind? Like, that's when we talk. I'm not going to lay this on you. When we talk about young guys in journalism revealing that they don't know things, unless he was fishing for a quote somehow to fill it, I don't know.
News somehow.
Because it's a smart guy who asked the question, but I was like, if you've ever fired anybody, if you've ever led a department or led a team, you know that man down, well, too bad. We move on and we live to play another day or fight right now. You can't pay attention to some guy who can't help you win.
There's zero.
None.
Zero.
Right.
As much as the young, smart reporters in Indianapolis want to make excuses and talk cap space and trades or draft picks, the smart guys actually in the business have no patience for anything other than winning.
Right.
You help me win, come on out of jail. We'll get that murder conviction overturned. You can't help me win. Tuesday's our day where we go out in the community. We'll let you wear your jersey and go sing to kids. You know what I mean? I mean, that's just, and anybody, well, they got, I always used to tell people, and I still tell people, don't tell me about these draft picks. Don't tell me about cap space. When you're walking out of Lucas Oil and the Colts have lost their 7th in a row, you give a shit about cap space and draft picks?
Zero.
NFL, you and I talk about it all the time. The NFL is a completely different entity. Baseball, and I don't understand it, fans accept their team selling off their players at the midseason to get prospects for next 10 years. Rarely does that ever work. When it does, we think about John Smoltz for Doyle Alexander, but that rarely does that work.
Right.
I mean, the bad teams that get a good player and sell them off stay shitty. But football, we don't accept that.
No. It's
too short a season, and we've seen too many teams go from not in the playoffs to the Super Bowl, or not in the playoffs to the playoffs, to the AFC, NFC championship game. We just do. And there is no middle ground, in my opinion, in NFL football. You win or you lose. We're not developing character here.
No.
I don't give two shits about any of their character. Just don't come in my back door, rob us. All right? Don't act like a jackass. Give a damn.
Now, do you care insofar as you do need to understand cooperation on the football field? You have to understand your responsibility as one of 11.
Let me ask you this, to your point. And maybe the answer is last year. I don't know. When's the last time one of these dumbass Diva wide receivers won a Super Bowl? Because I saw Stephon Diggs act like an idiot.
Beckham, maybe with.
But he wasn't then. He was just an add-on to the team.
Yeah.
He was a humbled wide receiver.
Yeah.
And then he was going to be a diva.
He was a former diva.
Yes, he was a former diva, and he was not in the same diva space mentally as he was earlier. But seriously, I know there has been, but I don't look at Tyreek Hill as a diva wide receiver, particularly when he was with the Chiefs. I mean, the Chiefs win, and there's no hell. You got Patrick Mahomes trying to play on an ankle that's the size of my head.
Yeah.
And that's the non-diva.
Yeah.
So I'm watching Stephon Diggs, and I understand everything goes back to Josh Allen. I understand everything goes back to the quarterback. I do, I swear. But I started thinking about this. The last guy that blows up on the sideline, acts like a jackass, I'm always wide open, all the bullshit that those idiots say. Who's won a Super Bowl?
Yeah. To what extent do you not tolerate it? Where do you go with a guy like Diggs? He pulls what he pulled, and I agree with you. But you don't cut him.
I know.
You can't do that.
Didn't the Texans get rid of the mad crapper, DeAndre Hopkins?
Yeah, and then they traded him, right, for Chris Johnson or something like that.
Yeah, and then Bill O'Brien was out within a year.
Yeah.
I mean, you know,
right.
Here's how you do it. You do. If I were, how do I put it? If I went, college basketball is totally different. If I went to coach an NFL team, I would really study the last 10 years, who's won what and why.
And reverse engineer it?
No, I would just go, okay, why does everybody follow Patrick Mahomes? And how did they put together guys around Patrick Mahomes? Why haven't they brought in, the only jackass they brought in was that Kadarius Toney, who got from the Giants, made a big deal, and then dropped the punt and then shut up.
Yeah.
You know,
and they keep sending other parts out, like Kareem Hunt, bye, Tyreek Hill, bye,
right.
And they keep winning.
That's what I'm saying.
And
yes, it's Mahomes is great. Yes, Kelsey's great. Yes, Chris Jones is great. But there's a culture there of, we're not going to let you be in it. The same thing when Belichick was winning with Brady. It was almost like the quarterback didn't allow that on their team.
And that's the key, isn't it? You got to have a guy in the locker room that people are like, okay, we don't want to step out of line because this guy.
I think so. And you got to have a coach that backs that and a general manager that understands that.
And then the general manager and the owner back it up with Mahomes to the tune of like $450 million. You know, sure as hell that guy's not going anywhere.
Well, let me ask you this. When the Colts were neck and neck with the Patriots, and it was Reggie Wayne and Marvin Harrison and Dallas Clark and Peyton Manning, there weren't any jackasses there. In either group.
I wonder how many of them might have become jackasses if that had not been the case.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
You know what I mean? Like maybe Reggie would have arced toward being a jackass. I don't know. He doesn't seem like a jackass.
No, because he had every opportunity because Marvin Harrison was getting most of the catches. Marvin Harrison was a basic first ballot Hall of Famer. And Reggie, I've always respected Reggie for that. I don't think he's doing much as a coach, but that's a totally different deal. And the Patriots, they got Randy Moss, and Randy Moss didn't say shit.
Right.
Didn't say shit.
Corey Dillon goes to the Patriots.
Right. He was a miscreant. Or
where do you want me to go?
LeGarrette Blount. Everybody thought he was a bad guy because he punched that knucklehead at Boise. And I remember Venturi going, I don't give a damn. I want LeGarrette Blount here today, tomorrow, the next day. But when you really look at it, you know, the Raiders didn't really have anybody. Or the Rams, I mean. Who else has won? Who else has won Super Bowls? I don't know. Nobody seems to have a jackass causing trouble.
Other than Moss, can you even name a wide receiver?
Well, all the little white guys that played in the slot.
Yeah, Edelman
and Amendola and Welker. Yeah.
Welker's pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, but no, Deion Branch, who, funny.
Yeah, right. I was an indie guy.
Yes, I was just playing golf with a guy that knew his kids is in gymnastics with Deion Branch and his wife here in, I think it's Fishers maybe. And he's like, greatest dude ever.
Is that right?
Oh, he's the most unbelievably great dude. His wife is better than him. Like, just the best. And that's, I don't know. I mean, it doesn't mean that Stephon Diggs is a bad guy. Doesn't mean that, but he's a selfish guy. He doesn't understand what you just talked about. And Stephon Diggs, his teams in college, they didn't win shit either. He got coaches fired at Maryland. I mean, so, you know, at what point is it not everybody else? And don't tell me it's about statistics. It's about how you interact and how you accept compliance.
And it depends on what tier on the roster
he's
you're
on the
at.
top tier.
Right. If you're on the bottom tier, you better be a good citizen. You better be a good guy who's willing to clean up in the locker room and, you know, tidy and
you know, when we go on our trips, the stewardess will say, we're so nice, and it's that guy there. Well, that guy's number 45, and he, you know.
Like Wooden, we've got to leave this gym nicer than we found it. You know, I don't think it was Kareem and Bill Walton and Jamal Wilkes tidying up. It was probably, you know, Sven Nader.
You think?
And
really? Ron Felly has a great story. He's on the court after Walton went 21-22 in St. Louis.
Oh, yeah.
And he's there just hanging out. And you know, it wasn't as big a deal then. So Wooden is kind of on the court. And he, you know, and Walton comes up to him wearing sandals and cutoffs and all this shit, puts his arm around him and goes, come on, John, let's get the fuck out of here.
Really?
Yeah. So it's classic. Yeah, so everybody thinks, and now Walton, well, Coach Wooden, he's my.
Yeah.
He said he could, because, come on, John, let's get the fuck. Now, hey, Frelly has told that same story a million times in the exact same way, so I'm going to assume it's the truth.
He believes it.
Yeah, but no, your value. See, and here's where I've always disagreed with your value, you can be a dick. I've always disagreed if you're trying to build a championship team. Your value creates more responsibility. Isaiah Thomas's value as a sophomore went up at Indiana. Woodson was going, I always use him. He could have been a dick. He was going first or second in the draft.
Right.
He was, Indiana was a part of his basketball persona, but he had everybody coming at him. And he knew his influence, and he made his influence a positive one where guys like Chuck Franz or Tony Brown, everybody felt a part of Isaiah's world, and it lifted the whole team. So people can say, well, look at Stephon Diggs' numbers. He comes to play. Yes, that's right. That's great. And you're going to win X number of games because of him. But to win championships, Major League Baseball, basketball, NFL, you got to be special, and you got to have a mentality of compliance, or whatever word you used earlier, which was really a great word. And you got to understand it, and you got to use it to lift others, not make people go, that's fucking idiot again.
And it depends on priorities.
Exactly right.
I mean,
yes.
Isaiah, all he has ever wanted to do is win.
Period.
Win, win, win.
Period.
Stephon Diggs is about something other we would
Well, that's what I
assume
say all
than
those wide
winning.
receivers. I say all those wide receivers are all about my touches, my targets, my catches, my yards, my touchdowns. That's not why. That's why they're bitching.
Right.
They're not bitching because they gave the ball to the running back who gained 12 yards. They're bitching because, hey man, I'm open. Fuck. And it's why they don't win.
They are not global in their perspective.
They are very, 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 very county in their perspective. Their neighborhood in their perspective. No, I'm serious. I mean, it's infuriating to me. I'm going to keep putting this out. It's infuriating to me that people don't see that. Yeah. Like, okay, here's where Anthony Richardson's real value is going to be to the Colts. By all accounts, and I'd love you to speak on this when I'm done here explaining, and you tell me by all accounts, he's a really smart guy. By all accounts, really fun guy. By all accounts, he's a guy that other people love being around. By other accounts, he's a coachable guy. So where his value is going to be is, number one, becoming as good a quarterback as he can be. Number two, becoming as good a quarterback as the NFL has. And number three, being the kind of leader that absolutely, when he walks in, everybody rises up.
Yeah.
I said that about Brady when people were talking about who the Colts should get. I said, this is easy. Go get Tom Brady. He lifts everybody up in the building. Everybody has to rise to his level. It's that, and they did it with Rivers light. Rivers was a little bit Brady light, okay. But and then it's on Ballard or whoever's going to be the GM to make damn sure that you put talented enough, number one, pieces around that don't chip away chip away at Richardson. Like with throwing tantrums, screaming at him on the sideline, yelling at the coach about him. And then you're going to have something here.
Or doing that, let me tell you how it's going to be. This is the way it works here. You don't need that wide receiver getting all in Anthony Richardson.
That's the definition of a reboot. I just gave you the definition of a reboot.
Right.
That a reboot is not, well, we're scaling it down. We're bringing, Gardner Minshew in to be our futures quarterback until we draft a guy. No. The reboot started when you drafted this guy.
Right.
And he has shown himself to be nothing but really good in all areas. Now you got to be smart who you surround him with. And he has got to understand, I don't give a shit about doing this. I want to win. And then all that bullshit will take care of itself.
I think it's really, really interesting to watch how the offensive line treats guys. The offensive line, that's a really insular type of group. And they are all behind Anthony. The way they behave, the way they talk about him.
And they're probably playing better because of it.
And I think so too. And I think that what they're also doing is they're exerting their influence over Anthony, trying to draw him out as a really, really good leader. so nobody else on the team can kind of get in his space and corrupt that.
That's a great point.
I think that's part of it.
That's a big part of it. That is not a little part of it. And again, it goes back to who are you going to surround him with?
Yeah.
And that becomes monumental, particularly on the offensive side of the ball. And again, we'll give Ballard great credit because it seems like from the outside, he brought in the perfect guy in Minshew to be his backup, to be in that room every day. And I'll bet you something else. I'll bet you that Sam Ehlinger is fantastic in this way as well. I'll just bet you. Sure, he's probably disappointed he didn't get to play, but I'll bet you he is perfect in understanding where his role is and being appreciative of the opportunity he has here in Indy. I would bet money on that.
I'll guarantee you, he's very appreciative of where.
And that's the reboot. That's what people that don't understand. That's how you reboot a franchise in football. You find the guy. He's got to be the guy in all areas.
Right.
And then you surround him with other guys. And then the quarterback, will make the other guys great.
I think part of that happened on the defensive side of the ball, too, when the Colts went out and got Buckner. I think they got him to be that kind of guy on the defensive side. I don't know whether Buckner is as well cast in that role as Richardson is. I think that Franklin's kind of become that guy instead of Buckner. But I think that I think Franklin and Richardson, this is their team. I get tired of 7 captains.
Oh.
I don't think you need 7. I think 3 captains, 1 for teams, 1 for defense, 1 for offense. I think that's plenty. And I think it's Franklin. I think it's Richardson and Kelly to an extent. And then whoever you want on special teams, I don't really care.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. No, I'm with you on that. I think a lot of times guys use the term captain to appease. I think what you have to do, and Knight always did this, and Knight always kind of read the room. He read the room. And I remember, I tell stories on myself all the time, but I remember when I was a sophomore, I barely played. And then I'm a junior. And Stu Robinson and maybe Tracy Foster was just getting, I don't know, some guys, and they were going to fight. And I stopped it. And even I was shocked, the influence I had. Like everybody stopped. And Knight, the only way Knight ever cheated was he would sit up there and watch, which was illegal, but he would. So I get a call into his office. And he goes, let me tell you something. He goes, you're the leader of this team. I go, really? He goes, you're the captain. I'm not going to make you captain because I don't do that, but you're the guy that has the most influence over this team. And I remember my smart ass, I said, well, coach, it would help if I played some.
Hey, when you get the advantage.
You don't have, I
never
had
looks
leverage.
good.
I never had leverage. But that's the thing, the guy that people, look to. And if you've ever talked to Buckner, you know he's that guy. Now, who knows, on a daily basis, does he play all the time? Seems like he does. I'm all on his ass about a couple years ago, whatever. But, but on offense, is there a great NFL team? If we were going to say, okay, here's the high-end NFL teams.
Right.
Does any of them not have a guy at quarterback that, other than maybe Brock Purdy, on the best team? I don't know. But does anybody have is there any NFL quarterback on those best teams that has any issue whatsoever? Like, is not viewed as a leader?
Not that I can think of.
I think
Herbert the other direction.
I think Herbert and Allen are overrated at that yet. I think they're given too much. Maybe not Allen, but Herbert's overrated with that.
Right.
I think he's an on the come guy. He's a potential guy, but I don't think he's there.
I think Burrow is one of those guys.
Definitely.
I think Stafford's one of those guys. I think that Cousins is not one of those guys.
He's just not at that level.
Right.
Right.
I think Rodgers is one of those guys.
Oh, yeah.
And I think he's kind of grown into it, even though he won a championship long ago.
Is Lamar Jackson?
I don't know. You got to kind of be. I think you got to kind of be around him to see how people like it. Because I don't watch Ravens enough.
No, right.
To know how those guys sort of vibe with him. I know that when Richardson's on the ground or when Richardson got hurt, Kelly and Nelson were right there. And that's a meaningful thing. I go back, Big Joe Stasiak, great guy. We've known Big Joe forever.
Yeah.
Big Joe, when Falk played in '95, Joe would help everybody up. And it got to a point with Falk where, like, Joe ran up and he's like, oh, it's Falk. He ran back to the huddle. Wouldn't help Falk up. Falk was a ridiculous human being until he got to St. Louis. And then, for whatever reason, he kind of came around and became something different.
Probably got humbled.
Yeah, I would think.
Well, I mean, you can say whatever you want. You get traded, you get fired. Just get fired once and you'll see.
You talk to people in St. Louis about Marshall Faulk and talk to people in Indy about Marshall Faulk. It's like you're talking about two completely different human beings. Really, really interesting. When I first got there, I was talking to Randy Carricker about Faulk, and he was saying things. I was like, wait, what? No. I heard a story about Faulk, just to give you an idea of what we're talking about. Sally Gardaki, great. Chris Gardaki's wife was awesome. She was on WIBC. So the Colts trained in Anderson, and there's a kid with his dad who's got a Faulk jersey and says before practice, Marshall, could you sign this? And Marshall goes, if I have a good practice. And then he walked away. And so Sally talked to the kid and the dad. They came all the way from Chicago, and they made that known to Faulk, that they came all the way to Chicago just to meet him and maybe get an autograph. He comes off the field after practice. Hey, Marshall, did you have a good practice? Nah. And he walked right past the kid. That's the kind of guy that Faulk at least was.
Yeah.
What Sally did, which was great, told Chris. Chris grabbed the kid, took the kid into the lunchroom with all the players, introduced him around, got autographs for the kid on a bunch of swag, sent him away with a big bag of stuff. Like, Sal was great, Chris was great, Marshall Faulk was not.
Yeah. I don't get that.
I don't either. You can make somebody's day.
I don't get that.
If you got a chance to make somebody's day, don't you? Of course.
I mean, I have slippage, as you saw. But 9 out of 10 times, not 9 out of 10 times, damn it.
It just makes the people you treat well feel more special.
But all right, what's the prediction?
Well, look, in your defense, you can't just yell at people from across a bar.
Hey, come here, Doc. No.
Yeah, no. Give people space in a restaurant.
Because my head is on a swivel. I've had enough dickheads come up to me. First time I ever went on an MS,
I remember.
Guy broke a beer bottle and was going to hit me. A Stroke's friend. I'm like, Stroke, what's your buddy doing? He was mad about Lou Holtz. What?
And it became clear after that you had limited enthusiasm about doing remotes.
You guys always said that. I would do remotes. I always tell E, I'll do remotes every single day. I'll do remote. And no, you won't. You don't like doing it. I'm like, okay. All right, back to Foots. Colts lose, you say?
Well, I'm hoping they win, but I think that the Jags, they've got a pretty substantial advantage at the talent positions, I think.
Well, most teams do. But I will tell you this.
Yeah.
The Jags did not, or the Ravens did not.
No.
Did the Titans? I guess with Hopkins and Henry, I guess.
But they did a great job of taking away the guy who can beat you, and that's Derrick Henry. 13 carries, 43 yards, I think. That's nothing for Derrick Henry.
One of our listeners said Antonio Brown with Tampa Bay. Diva wide receiver winning a Super Bowl. Josh Morrison. Antonio Brown with Tampa. I'll give it to you. I don't think he was that year because he was humbled. He got with Brady. But you're right. The guy who had been a diva his entire career. You're not buying it.
He was like, to put it in chemistry terms, he was an electron on one of the outer orbits.
But he was a part
of that team.
No, he wasn't. Wasn't he their leading receiver?
I thought, who's the guy down there? Mike Evans?
Really?
I thought he was awful good with Brady. I think I'm getting the right guy.
Mike Evans is great. Mike Evans is the one guy, I think I told you this, the one guy, he and Tony Gonzalez, and Tony did play, that say they could play basketball at a high major level. Evans could. Mike Evans was really good.
Is that right?
Yeah, he was. Tony Gonzalez did play. He was a very good player at Cal.
That's not fair. Be good at one thing and get the hell out of people's way.
And Tony Gonzalez is one of them dudes, when you see him, even when he was like in college, like, that's a good looking dude.
Yeah.
He's got everything. Get the fuck away from me. You got everything. Get out of here.
Exactly.
Go. All right, IU football line is 33, Gritty. 33. 3-3.
Yeah.
I ain't touching that one.
Well, the weather might be a little sketchy.
You say that, but that just means that Indiana won't gain a yard.
We were talking to Quiddy Pay about Michigan. We're like, hey, because and he's in protocol, so he isn't supposed. You can have you can't put him on tape or whatever. And Matt Conti asked him about Michigan and Indiana. I say, hey, you were there at Memorial Stadium in 2020 when Indiana kicked your ass. And then you remember, you're not just having a conversation with a human being, you're having a conversation with a guy who could pick you up and break you in two. So I was surprised by my own kind of swagger.
Yeah. And, about Indiana football.
And then
Indiana football swagger is not early and often.
No, it's very rarely we can do that. That's the only win for them in my son's lifetime. He's 35 years old.
Yeah.
Only win in his lifetime that Indiana has beaten Michigan. And the last time they won in Michigan was 1967.
Is that right?
Yeah.
I was at the one when they won in Memorial. The only time I ever rushed the field. When they beat them in Memorial Stadium. In
like 87?
Yeah. And my mom, myself, I was the only assistant coach that had a kegger for the game in Varsity Village. We had a little pony keg and a bunch of people. Pretty good party. My mom was there. My dad wouldn't go because it was raining. My mom stayed the whole time. Me, my mom, my brother, my sister, and a cavalcade of degenerates. We went on the field. I remember my mom, she was talking about it the other day, what a great time it was. But anyway, that was really 87. All right, we're going gun to head.
Yeah.
Would you take or would you give? Would you take the 33 as Indiana or would you give it as Michigan?
Oh, I'm giving it all day long. They just beat Minnesota 52-10 at Minnesota.
The 33 is not enough.
No.
33, no. And
not unless Harbaugh, Harbaugh being the brother of Tom Crean, he's going to punish Indiana, by proxy.
De facto, yeah. I agree with that. All right, Colts are getting 2.
Only 2?
That's what I saw this morning. Now, it could be more.
That's come down from
was
4.
Is that well? Maybe 4. I'm wrong, but I swear I saw 2 or 2.5 this morning.
2, I take the Jaguars.
It's
4, I take the Colts.
4.
Okay, 4, I take the Colts. I think it's a field goal type game. I think it's close in the 4th. Somebody's going to make a field goal. There's going to be a turnover. It's not quite a coin flip game, but it's close.
Over under 44.5.
I'll take the under because the under means that the Colts win.
Okay. I'm going to give you 2 bets that I made. I've been on fire with my picks on shows, and this is a sneak preview for those of you that watch the YouTube show. You're getting exclusive. So make sure you like us.
Yeah,
and subscribe. You got to subscribe. Where are you getting this?
Doing? Where are the formatics, for God's sake? We've gone how many minutes? 52 minutes.
We're giving you everything we got to.
And we're not begging for anything in 52 minutes. So those of you who have stuck with us, for the love of God, hit the subscribe button.
Please do. I got North Carolina giving 3 to Miami of Florida. That's my line. That's going to be my house bet. I'm going to tell you why. Miami of Florida last week. Did you see this?
Yeah.
Take a knee. You know who else did that? Did I tell you this? Alabama. Alabama could have taken
a play.
Yes, threw a pass on first down, and Saban almost, and it was one of those passes that it was an out to a wide receiver, and it went short.
Oh no!
Which those get intercepted for a touchdown.
Yeah, you cut the lane, it's over. Yeah,
I couldn't believe it, and they cut to Saban, and so then the clock stopped. So then they took a knee the next 2. Yeah. And I think they had to run it out with 7 seconds.
Oh,
I think on 4th down they had it with 7 seconds, and they ran around, threw it up in the air.
Yeah, right.
But I thought he was going to implode, Kent. All right, my point is North Carolina's pretty good. The quarterback May is great. 3 isn't enough. You're talking about a team that has 0, and I'm just telling you how players go, 0 trust in his coaching staff if they did that.
Yeah.
They might play well for a little bit. I never touched first halves.
I believe that. They were undefeated.
That's unbelievable. There's no chance that team plays well. And then, of course, if you didn't see it, go look at it. They could have taken a knee. They didn't. They handed off, stripped. Next thing you know, Georgia Tech, as you know is going to happen. 4 plays later, they scored a touchdown, and Mario Cristobal, the coach, has to sit there and suffer.
He was. I know he ate it in the Monday presser, but the post-game presser, He was a typical obnoxious, arrogant coach.
Yeah.
You know, fine.
Yeah. And his offensive coordinator did the right thing too. He ate it too. He said, I called the play. Well, that's nice, and it gets you through this week with Mario, but you ain't never getting another job.
Right. We're on to North Carolina.
Yeah.
That's where he should have gone.
My ass. I'm going to give you another one. I got Rutgers -5 against Michigan State. I think Greg Schiano's a good coach. I think I will bet against Michigan State, and I made a lot of money this year. Michigan State is terrible.
What are they going to do?
I don't know, but I ain't getting Urban Meyer.
Let me ask you this before we wrap everything up.
Yes.
Not to get off the college football and the gambling.
No.
How much do you care where Liam McNeeley goes to college? He's got a pick between Indiana and Kansas. He's going to make his announcement on Sunday. How much do you care about which he chooses?
Look, I want Indiana to have good players, and I want them to win. And I understand that, you know what, this guy's probably the greatest thing ever, but I'm so tired. And you know, I've talked to you about this. I want them to have a good team. I want there to be excitement. People think I root against Indiana. That's the last thing possible. I want Woody to be great, but I don't give a rat's ass. I'll be honest with you. I'm so tired of everybody telling me how great every player is. I'm so tired of, since 1993, you and I have talked about this. I've talked about this. Every fucking player is going to turn the program around. You know what? If he does, wonderful.
But let's see him do it before we get all invested in him. Let's not bet the futures in this cryptocurrency of recruiting.
You know, is he going to come here? First, is he good? Is he good compared to older guys? He's only going to be here 1 year by all accounts. Is he?
Yeah,
you
right.
know, I asked the guy. So this Mbako or whatever.
Yeah, Mackenzie Mbako.
All right, he's getting all the thing. I saw where 2 Indiana players in 2 different mock drafts were going in the first round. That big kid Ware and Mbako. And that's great. But I also talked to a guy that said, Dan, make no mistake about it, Kansas had no interest. They wanted a guy late, but they didn't give a shit about Mbako, and Duke didn't want him. So I know he's wired to score, and I know, but at some point, Ken, if I were 18 years old and I was at Indiana, I'd be like, this is great. We got all these guys.
Yeah, right.
But you and I have heard it. We've seen it. We know how good the other teams are. We know how well coached the other teams are. So do it. Hey man, I'll be right there. I'll be like, hey, this is great. But this is going on 30 years of hearing how great everybody is.
They win a national championship. You and me, we rush a court.
I'll rush a court.
Fair enough?
Yeah.
All right.
People always ask me, Ken, I'm curious how you would feel about this. I've always thought a little bit differently than people. Okay. I've never kind of wanted to go along with the crowd, and it's from little things to bigger things. But I used to be there when I was in Indiana for the first 16 years, not necessarily the year with Samson, but the first 16 years. I'd see a lot of older guys come around all the time. And I remember thinking to myself, yeah, I ain't doing it. Yeah. I'm not going to be the guy that has to go to every game or has to walk around being the Indiana player at IU. And people are on my ass about, well, you're not allowed to go back to Indiana. Bullshit. I call Scott Dolson, I'll sit behind the bench. I mean, what the fuck? So I've just never been one of those guys. There was a guy, really good player named Bobby Masters. Bobby Masters is a great guy, and I love talking to him, but he was always at our golf outing. And I asked him, I go, Bobby, thanks for coming to golf outing. He goes, yeah. He goes, I come support it because it's for scholarship, something we did, but I don't need to get tickets every week. I don't need that. And I'm kind of like, so people get off my ass about not being at every fucking Indiana game. I like going to bed at night.
Yeah, right.
I mean, it's fun to go. It's fun for you and me.
Well,
when we go, it's fun.
And the road between Bloomington and Indy has been under construction for 15 years.
Is it 15?
15 years. Fred Glass, who has not been the athletic director for how long, he never drove between Indy and Bloomington without there being construction on 3769, whatever it is.
My daughter graduated
in
maybe 16 in high school. It was under construction then. They told us, yeah, it'll be done by the time your daughter graduates. She was 4 years. She wasn't 10 years. She wasn't 20 years. But no, look, I think Indiana, if they get the kid, wonderful.
Yeah.
Wonderful. I think it'd be great. It'd be a boost. Everybody would continue. But you got to win games. I mean, Indiana's the other one. Like, here, all right, NFL team, you got to win. In my world, Indiana has all the ancillary stuff. It's a great school. I would say it's the greatest school on earth. Most fun place to go to college. Greatest place in the world to be a basketball player. But you got to win now. My son's team, Illinois State. Like I tell him, man, keep promoting because you don't want it. You want to get a reputation as a great recruiter, Kevin O'Neill. Kevin O'Neill got job after job, but ultimately it's, man, hey, let's win.
Yeah.
I mean, that's not how I always was, but that's how I am. I mean, let me ask you. You've been an Indiana fan forever. You went to Indiana. Now you're in the media. You go down there, but you're more of a fan. I would say for Indiana basketball, and probably you're more of a fan than a media guy.
Yes.
I would say that.
Yes.
Okay.
It's that and the Cubs are the indulgences.
Yeah. Would you say that you care about, I don't know, the development of the student athlete? I mean, who graduates? I mean,
well, you know what? And this goes back to like Fanboy Indiana. Is that Fanboy Indiana back during those 90 years? We got to carry ourselves with some arrogance.
Yes.
Because it was about academics, it was about development, and it was about winning, and we won despite all of that.
Yes.
We like that level of arrogance, carrying ourselves like that, and shoving it up the people from Kentucky's ass.
I agree with that. I agree, but the winning has to be the first
You can't
thing.
lose and have good citizens.
It's like, man, a very famous, not Urban Meyer, but a very famous, very successful football coach called me out of the blue, college football coach. Calls me out of the blue when I was at Indiana as the interim coach. He goes, Dan, I don't know you, but I know Urban, and I'm really intrigued by you taking this team over. He goes, I got to ask you, why are you worried about them smoking weed? Why are you suspending? Why are you, because I'm reading that you're suspended Jamarcus Ellis. I'm reading you're making, why are you doing that? Well, because I'm a player here, I got pride in it, and I'd like to see it back. He goes, great, you can do all that. You can do all that when they give you the job. The only thing you should be worried about is winning basketball games, and then when they get the job, and when you get the contract, kick the assholes off and get it back to where you're going. But you got to get the job first, or else, and I'll never forget this, you're going to be in Assembly Hall putting your arms up on the state of Indiana saying, I did the right thing for Indiana basketball. And you know what? The gym's going to be empty. I'll never forget the guy saying that. And this part of me now, I'm all in on. You're not in on that. You're not in on that. All right.
Getting the right result by doing the wrong thing is a horseshit way to live your life.
But it would have been temporary. 26 million would have been
that's
lifetime.
Not temporary. That's never temporary. Violating your own principles is not a temporary condition.
I will say this. I never lost a day's sleep over it.
There you go.
A night's sleep. I don't
there
sleep
you go.
in a day. You sleep in a day?
No, I can't.
No, a night's sleep. All right, last thing.
Yeah.
Do people around my ass, you never talk about Purdue football. I get 3 people.
Does anyone?
That's on my ass.
Hey.
Who do they play this week?
Ohio State.
Oh, this is the Tyler Trent game from 18.
Right. They are 6-3. Purdue is in West Lafayette against Ohio State since 2000. How about that for a nugget?
Only here.
And
hey, by the way,
courtesy of Mike
Trent,
Merritt from the Associated Press.
I like Mike. Side note, hey, Greg Doyle, kiss my ass. Greg Doyle goes on the IBJ interview and says about Tyler Trent. Like, yeah, Dan went out to do an interview at Tyler Trent's house, did his show, but he made it all about himself. I'm like, Jesus Christ. Nobody knew Tyler Trent. I saw the story. I called him up. It was a Sunday after I left church, and he's like, oh, we'd love to. I want to be in broadcast. I go, well, here's your chance. So I took out our stuff, went out there, and sat next to the kid and became friends with the whole family. The family I promoted their golf outings. They text me all the time. They go, when I did a Purdue game, they come down, Mom gives me on. And Doyle is telling Gary Dick on this thing, oh, Dockich made it all about, he didn't say my name. I can't say his name because, okay. He made it all, I'm a victim. I'm persecuted.
It's so good that Greg Doyle is criticizing others for making something about themselves. That the irony and hypocrisy, good God, that's shameless.
Or talking about somebody's questionable behavior. I could tell you for days. Anyway, hey, opa. Hey, I'm not going to lie, kid. This is the best hour you got in Indy. Well, I don't give a damn. This show, we may just do it with nobody watching and you just send it out
We did that at Wolfie's last Friday night. We did a show for 3 hours. It just wasn't on video.
When you leave here, by the way, go to the end of my drive and you'll see straight ahead the house that I told you about that is for sale. Would you think somebody bought a house down the street? Remember we were talking about this and about 3 months later, they're selling it.
Ooh, yeah.
That's what you said. You said, ooh. See, I didn't look at ooh. I looked at, maybe they got something else. Maybe they got transferred. Maybe they...
These are people, whatever the case, they do not answer the call against adversity. They do not meet adversity head on.
Because they kept a house?
Because they sold the house. Sell the house. You walk in, you're like, buyer's remorse. With a home that you own, you have a responsibility to build that home and refurbish that home in a way that you find it livable, not just run from it.
Well, there used to be a TV show on CBS where they picked a town, threw a dart, hit a name, and then they told that person's story. It's one of my favorite shows. I'm sure it was set up, but okay. But the point was, everybody has a story.
Yeah.
There's always a backstory.
Yeah.
So I'm an adult. You're an adult. What's one of the worst things about being adult? I will answer the question. Moving.
Yeah.
So if you're going to move into a big old house and then 3 months later, you're going to move out of that big old house, which means you got to move into a big old house or a small house or whatever.
That's bringing adversity on yourself, which I have no time for whatsoever. I have no tolerance for that kind of behavior, I can tell you.
This is my son calling me. Hold on. Hey, Andrew, don't swear. You're on the air. Everything good? Can I call you right back?
Yeah. Hey, quick question. Do you know Daniel Ruffin?
Yeah, Danny Ruffin, yeah.
I'm going to watch his team today.
That's AJ Guyton's cousin.
I heard.
All right, I'll call you back. Love you. Danny Ruffin was a good point guard at Bradley when they went to the Sweet 16.
Was he?
Yeah, he was AJ. We should have recruited him. He was AJ's. I think AJ's mom was a Ruffin, so it's AJ's cousin, first cousin. He's a coach now. He's a really good point guard. Yeah.
I liked the way Andrew took the question, can I call you later, and just went ahead and asked his question and rode right over the top.
No, he doesn't want to hear from me. He's important. My man is important.
So is that the best phone call from Andrew's perspective? He got the question answered, and you gave him an excuse to hang up immediately.
Yes, it's the bet. My mother turned me on to that. She says, Daniel, you only call me when you're about to walk in somewhere. I'm like, oh, well, now you mention it. Okay, I won't do that no more. I didn't really realize. I only talk. All right, let me ask you guys this. How often are you just talking on the phone when you're at your house? Just a social call.
Never.
Not a business.
Never.
That's what I'm saying. So when you get in the car, what do? I make a phone call.
Here's the thing, and I know I'm assuming you do this for this reason. We've got a mutual friend, the great Paulie Balls. When my phone rings and it's Paulie, I know he's in the car and he's got about 3 hours ahead of him and he's just trying to kill time.
Yeah.
And I got shit to do.
Yeah.
I'm like, hey, but I keep talking because I think at some point there's going to be a point, and there's never a point. And it gets to be like 40 minutes and you're like, what are we doing? And there are long expanses of silence.
That's because you're friends and you can get through it. You can get, with a person that's not a friend, it's uncomfortable. That's why he calls you.
Yeah, that's okay.
You know who my go-to was? Lawrence Frank.
Really?
Lawrence Frank's now the president of the Clippers, but when he was a young kid, I got him a job with Kevin O'Neill at Tennessee. So every time I'd go recruiting, you would fly out of Indy, fly back into Indy, and you usually come home in the evening at night. So every time on that drive from Indy to Bloomington, I always called Lawrence Frank's Tennessee basketball office, and he was always there. They were an hour behind us, and Lawrence got me more time from Bloomington or from Indy to Bloomington more than anybody's ever gotten me anywhere. Hey, Al, what are you doing? Oh, hey, it's great. Hey, Coach Doc, how you doing? And we would talk because he would talk. He's a great talker, and it would be literally an hour that went by like that. You got to have a guy.
This is what we do for you. All you have to, you listen to this on your way from Indy to Bloomington. It's almost perfectly timed for exactly that drive if you're going from Indy to Bloomington or Bloomington to Indy.
Yeah, this is 70 minutes. Right now, it's going to end up at 70
That's perfect.
minutes. Perfect. We only have 55 likes. Last show got 450.
That's impossible.
We ended up getting over 4,400 and some subscriptions, but we got to get to 5,000.
Yeah, we picked up more than 100 last week. We need, like, if all of, how many? 153 people.
Yeah.
Everybody subscribe. Ready? 3, 2, 1. Subscribe.
Push!
There you go. Thank you to all of you.
But we got to thank our sponsors, Dr. Mike O'Neill at Today's Dentistry, QC Kinetics. I got a bunch. Moondrops Distillery. We got to go do another show.
We do. We enjoyed
We really
Moondrops.
do. We got to go
That's
there.
a good place to do a show.
Just Add Water Boats. Looking for a boat? Go to Just Add Water Boats. Affinity Whole Health. You want to get testosterone? I got a hairy back now. I do, because I'm on this testosterone program.
Really?
Oh,
It happens that quickly?
It's been a year.
Oh, okay.
I'm not a stupid hairy back, but I got to tell. I'm not lying to you, Ken. Lee will set the edict. I don't want you hitting on me in the middle of the afternoon, making me run around the house. This testosterone just has it's unbelievable. It's unbelievable.
What'd she think about the hairy back?
She shaved it the other day.
She's like, it's gonna itch.
She said it's not that hairy. It's very.
Okay.
See, to me, I've always been very scared of that. I've never wanted that. Knezovich and I, before my first date with Lee, I finally got, divorce was final. I'm like, all right, I can see you now. We flew down to Marco Island, and I told one of the ladies at Emma's, I think it was Molly, had a deal with the not the brass monkey, the hairy monkey or the ugly monkey, or there was a monkey.
Yeah.
So Knezovich went in and got our backs waxed, and I didn't have much there, but don't.
Hadn't you seen Steve Carell?
Yes.
Where they did that for real in the movie. That did not look
they did that
like
for
a
real
happy
in the
thing.
movie.
Yeah. That's no good.
I didn't have that kind of.
I just don't care enough to put myself through any kind of
I
pain.
did. I would never do it again, but I wanted Lee.
I talked to a guy, because when you're getting your hair cut, what do you talk about? People coming in to get their nostrils waxed. I was like, no, thank you. I'll do the best I can without having searing hot wax poured in my nose and then ripped out. That just sounds terrible.
All right, this is gross, but as you get older, you get a hair, and if you ever, I get one right here, and when I like pulling it out, because sometimes it feels like I'm pulling it out this long.
Yeah.
It hurts, and your eyes water. Could you imagine getting that waxed and then pulled out?
No, that's terrible. That's terrible.
ANFW, absolutely no fucking way am I doing that.
No.
Oh, I didn't hear it. I've never heard of that.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
No.
Terrible. All right. We'll talk to you probably Monday, celebrating
a
delicious Colts win.
A victory formation Monday. See you.